Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating discussion about Lisp indentation styles. Or rather, the lack of a universally agreed-upon beautiful one. The article we're discussing argues that all current Lisp indentation schemes are, well, ugly.
Oh, spicy! I'm intrigued. What's the core argument here?
The author points out that while experienced Lispers rely on indentation to read code, ignoring the parentheses, the very act of indenting Lisp code presents a significant challenge. There are multiple competing styles, and none seem to be universally loved.
So the problem isn't the parentheses themselves, but how to visually represent the nested structure in a way that's both readable and consistent. I see.
Exactly. He starts by dismissing the one-line solution, obviously impractical for anything beyond trivial expressions. Then he tackles the aligned indent style, where function arguments are aligned vertically. It works well for short function names, but becomes unwieldy with longer ones, leading to excessive horizontal space.
19 spaces of indentation? Yikes! That's a readability nightmare. I've definitely seen that before. It's a common problem.
Precisely. Then he discusses space-filling indent, where you don't necessarily put each argument on a new line. It's more compact, but still has limitations, especially with deeply nested structures. The author even calls out some pretty printers for their overly verbose output.
Yeah, I've seen those pretty printers that make simple loops look like they're from another planet. It's like they're trying to be helpful, but they end up making things worse.
Totally. Then comes the sick macro indent, a style where the function name is on one line and the arguments are on the next. It's controversial, but the author argues it offers excellent control over indentation, especially in deeply nested code. It keeps things compact, even with complex structures.
Interesting. I can see how that might be useful for managing complexity, but it does seem to go against conventional wisdom. It might be less readable for those not used to it.
That's a valid point. The author acknowledges that it's not idiomatic and can disrupt nesting identification. It's a trade-off between compactness and readability. He also mentions the use of threading macros in Clojure as an alternative approach to managing deep nesting, but notes that Common Lisp's standard library isn't as conducive to this approach.
So it seems there's no silver bullet. Each style has its pros and cons, and the best choice depends on the specific context and personal preference. It's a bit of a subjective problem, isn't it?
Exactly. The author concludes by stating that while he often prefers the sick macro indent for deeply nested code, he recognizes the value in other approaches. It's a problem that continues to challenge Lispers.
A very insightful article. It highlights the ongoing tension between readability and compactness in Lisp programming. Thanks for summarizing it.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.